Okay guys, so we are here to talk through our walkthrough form creation for Welborn Middle School. I'm Jordan Hagerman, 8th grade science teacher.
I'm Brooke Brewer, I'm 8th grade ELA.
Jody Stanford, parent of a 7th grader.
Cassie Doucette, 7th grade math.
Michelle Phillips, 7th grade history and 8th grade history.
Pauline Cummings, 7th grade math.
Perfect. Okay, so just you'll have agenda for you looking through it. So objective, we're just wanting to make a campus-specific, concise walkthrough form based on what we need. All right. Going through all of our kind of just the agenda, the purpose. Right. We have a quick review of our materials. So in your little packet of goodies here, the first thing that you have is the TAPER report. So Miss Sanford, the TAPER report is just pretty much how Welborn does on our STAR exams, percentages based on information that way. And then we also have several walkthrough forms. So walkthroughs happen, multiple times a year. Teachers are evaluated throughout the year, and it's kind of in essence how we're, graded and how we can be developed over time. So we have a couple of different walkthrough forms, but overall we want to get your input and then teacher input to create a new one for us. From there we'll go into just what do we want to see in our walkthroughs. We can look a little bit at the TAPER, and then specifically I have a specific population pointed out, but I want to get y'all's information on that before I start giving my input. And then we'll finish up by creating our own walkthrough. So first, real quick, if you will, look at that TAPER report. And what I always do anytime I look at these is I just look at anything that I see might be just big jumps or big gaps. First, it starts out with just STAR, and so if you kind of want to look over and specifically, if you're reading social studies, math, if you want to specifically look at your grade level and your subject, kind of see how if you want to look how you see how your special populations do, that's usually where I start out with this. So if anybody wants to start with what they see, we can run with it from there, and kind of wherever you'll see any big gaps is what we're looking at.
As a parent of a GT student that's not always super high achieving, I'm looking at master's grade level, and I'm seeing that as a whole, the campus is performing at master's level higher than the state.
Absolutely, absolutely. So from the 23 to 24, if you look at that master's for sure. So in reading, we jumped up 2%. The state only jumped 2%. As a campus, we, jumped, almost 20%. So absolutely. Do you feel that your kiddo, as a identified GT student, do you feel that his needs are met as a GT student, or is that something kind of in a classroom you would want to look at or see a little bit more? Like what do you as a parent expect to see?
As one that is very capable, but maybe not always driven, I like to see that y'all are doing something well in the classroom.
Okay.
I think that's a positive, that we are outperforming at Welborn Middle School the state averages.
Absolutely.
But I would want to know that they continue to be served at that level.
Okay. Okay. So figuring out how we're meeting those needs and then continuously doing that. I like it. Okay. What about math? Does anyone see any big numbers that step out with math?
So at 7th grade master's grade level, it's only 8%. All the other subjects are at 30%. Is that because of some of the 7th graders taking the 8th grade STAR?
Absolutely. Yeah, so they'll take the 8th grade STAR, and then you also see like the biology EOC, so in an algebra 1. So there could be some percentages there that you're not going to see as high.
Like those master's kids are probably in the advanced.
Yeah.
Taking it.
But if you look at it, you don't know that.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you're still rocking it out.
Yeah.
If you especially look at the approaches and the meetings.
So looking at our special, our low socioeconomic, our eco-dis, things like that. Do y'all see anything there that would be teacher-wise? Do y'all see anything there that's concerning for you being in a classroom all the time, things like that?
I don't necessarily see anything concerning right now for 8th grade social studies. I see some gain in that area, which is great news from 23 to 24. I haven't had a chance to look at it for all of the subjects, but
Right.
I'm seeing gain in, let's see, I saw some gain in some other areas as well for EcoDis,
Yeah.
science, yep,
Okay. So,
math.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good news. But there's plenty of room for improvement.
Okay. Okay. So I want y'all to look at, or if you don't mind, so just looking at, on any of, you can look at this first page, you can even look at the second page. If you look at the column, our special education current. So if you look there, so from 23 to 24, our numbers for approaches dropped from 74 to 46. Meets, it dropped from 40 to 30. From masters, 9 to 11. And that's for reading. And if you go to math, it becomes 55 to 38, 25 to 16, 13 to 2 for masters. I mean, as teachers, do you feel that this is something that should be worked on? What are your thoughts on those low and those dropping numbers for our STAR pass rates for our special education services? What do you see?
I mean, I know that our programs have changed significantly this year, so that to me tells me that that's a reflection of a little bit of a failure in the program in general.
Well, I'm even thinking more so like kids who maybe exit
Mm-hmm.
the SPED program. You should expect a
Right.
little bit of a number switch. Like again, they're not necessarily counted in that,
Mm-hmm.
but I still don't know that it should be that big
Yeah.
of a drop just from people who are exiting and then going, just in like a general category. I don't still think it should be that big of a drop.
Okay.
Makes you wonder what is the reason for the drop.
Right.
What's the
Yeah.
change in the classroom, the dynamic, the support that we're having?
So if we look at was there any gains? Did anybody gain? So 7th grade reading, no. Math, no. Okay, so 8th grade reading.
Yeah.
8th grade reading did. 8th math, no. But that's pretty close. 58, 61. That's pretty similar. Science, we gained. And then so did 8th social studies.
I think for us to have a good snapshot of that, we would have to compare more than 2 years, more
Oh,
than
absolutely.
the 23-24 year, because
The kids are different, the testing is different.
Yeah.
and the programs are different.
Yeah, we absolutely.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you compare 23 7th graders to 24 8th graders?
That
It's
could
the
be, I
same
feel like a
thing.
better
Where
comparison.
64% were at grade level and then
64,
and then
46.
46.
That to me would be a bigger,
That's a huge
So
drop.
should we maybe look at, and I'm again kind of looking at through the lens of we're wanting to create a walkthrough form, okay? Do we want to kind of look through the thought process of, okay, well, what is 8th grade? I'm not saying 8th grade teachers are being more proficient, I'm not saying that at all, or they're better, but maybe what are they doing in regards to differentiation? I mean, I know that definitely having taught 7th grade as well, I know a lot of it is a 6th to 7th grade jump. That takes a huge, that rocks kids' worlds. So I mean, I'll give you a little bit of that, but I mean, I don't know, 20% or
Because if
almost
you
20%.
look at, going back to that, if you look at grade level, it's 34% for 23, and it goes to 30% for 24 for special ed. They're similar.
Yeah,
And then you go from 9% to 9%, or sorry, 9% to 11% in 7th grade and 8th grade reading.
yeah.
So I mean, if you look at it year after year, the because each group of kids is so different.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe looking less year to year, but more grade to grade. Like what is,
There is an all grades, all subjects on page
Yeah.
5,
okay,
and that gives us a generalized snapshot, not a great one, but if we want to,
Campus level.
yeah, if we want to
powering.
focus on target level action, that's not necessarily it, but it gives us a better bird's eye view.
yeah. So all grades, all subjects,
Mhm.
yeah, approaches.
At approaches, we
So
get
the only one I'd be
53%.
concerned with, well, not even 53, 58, that's not too much
That's not,
difference.
yeah,
28, 33, that's not
That's-
too much difference, and 8 to 10 is not too much.
there's not too much as well.
So if you're tracking a group of kids,
Mhm.
there's not really a lot of gains or losses right there.
Right. okay.
Yeah, but we don't want to see losses. I mean, I assume that
Right.
our goal is to see gains.
Right,
There's
absolutely.
losses there for sure.
Yeah.
But still, though, like even I am agreeing that like maybe we don't compare year to year, but even if we do compare year to year, and we look back at 24, we're like, we did not do as awesome
Right.
with our kids served under special education as we could have. Even if we did, better in 23, like obviously 24, we hit a deficit. Even if they were a little bit lower, like still feel like that should have been something that again
Well-
we can see and do something to actually
Okay.
improve on that.
Also thinking back to like our campus and even our district focus from 23 to 24, it shifted
Mm-hmm.
in such a significant way, and we've made some different gains in different areas, but not necessarily targeted gains in special education.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that when we look at, if we're looking at a bird's eye snapshot, we have to look at a bird's eye view of where the district came from in 2003 to where we went to in 2004, and even where we're going to, right, as we continue this work, so that we can have a more targeted action.
Absolutely. Okay, well, then moving from there then, okay, so kind of keeping those numbers in mind. So again, we have several different walkthrough forms, okay? Let's look at our CSISD one. So this is the one that College Station Independent School District uses. So again, Ms. Sanford, this is our walkthrough form, okay? Usually the principals come in a couple times a year, and we have a long 45-minute, no, you're good, has like a 45-minute evaluation of us. So that kind of give you a rundown. You've got proficient, accomplished, distinguished, right? So those are, if you've heard teachers that are more accomplished, that's on that end, and then developing an improvement needed. Clearly, those are your lower ends, and it's just qualifications under each. So the little bulleted item is qualifications underneath. I want to get, clearly make yourself oriented with it, but teachers, I want to get y'all's kind of perspective in regards to this. Like, where do you think it's beneficial? What do you feel the purpose of a walkthrough is? Do you think this meets that purpose? What would you like to see? You like it? Don't change it? What are y'all's thoughts?
Yeah, I think the fact that the wording is very specific is beneficial because it gives us an idea about where we are and why, like why we received the rating that we received. But also in a sense, it's a little bit too broad.
Okay.
It's too broad because all of this wording encompasses way more than a 45-minute
Right.
walkthrough situation.
Okay, right. So if you look at the distinguished category, it says like persists with the lesson until there's evidence that all students have learned. Like that's pretty
Right.
definite wording.
Monitor progress over time is distinguished up there and achieving expectations, and it's like, how are you gonna see that in 45 minutes? That
Okay.
you're monitoring the progress over time.
Yeah,
Right,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And as a teacher, sometimes I think it's hard, like if you look at this first domain and distinguish and accomplish, the first bullet's the exact same for both. And that's challenging as an educator just because, well, I feel like I did distinguish, but then I feel like I could be rated as an accomplished because of the wording.
Okay, just from the wording. alone.
Yeah.
Like I like the scale, like I
Yes.
like being put and like, it's not just like a yes or no, it's like you can move up or
Yeah.
down a continuum. But again, on the continuum, there's not a whole lot of differences between them, which I struggle with. And then again, when there are differences, it's usually, yeah, a track over time that again, you're not seeing within a 45-minute
Okay.
observation.
It does make you reflect though, because I completely agree with just a snapshot, 45-minute observation. But like, if we really aren't doing all these things every day, are we doing the best we can for our students each period?
Okay. How do we feel in regards to like looking at it more? Excuse me, let me ask this question first. What is your goal with a walkthrough? Like I know what my purpose would be for a walkthrough as an administrator, thought process. What is yours as a teacher? Like why do you want somebody in your room? Why would you want them in your room? What do you want to get out of the walkthrough? Do you want anything?
I would really want feedback. And unfortunately, like, no matter where you necessarily put me on this continuum regarding this walkthrough, it's not like I'm getting feedback other than like, you got this category, way to go. And it's not actually telling me like, oh, this is maybe a deficit of yours, or like, oh, you had a lot of these strengths, so this is where you can improve. It just kind of places me somewhere, and that's it. I don't really have room to move after
That's
that.
on the administrator for more.
It's like a checkbox in
Right.
essence. Okay. So instead of okay.
It really becomes in a sense, like an old school science fair, right? Where teachers get to showcase all of the good things.
Right.
But at the very end of it, it's not necessarily like a blue ribbon or red ribbon. You know, it's really just like, and maybe you did it and maybe you didn't. And it's not always super clear about, like the feedback is not something that I'm going to take and go into my classroom and completely change or even like improve the way I'm teaching in a general sense.
Right. Okay. So you don't see how much you really don't benefit. From
Yeah,
the
just like
feedback
Cassie
that
was
is-
saying,
yeah.
the application
Okay.
part of that, like
Okay.
the follow through in the application is not a genuinely reliable piece of it, and a lot of times it's missing.
Okay.
The feedback's something that I want to be able to implement in my classroom the next day, not
Yeah,
just a broad
absolutely.
like your culture seems off.
Right.
Well,
Or
So
Yeah.
what would be your feelings about if someone came in more often, right? Came in more often, but gave you, in essence, like an action, like, and not gave it to you, like, hey, this is what you should do because I know what to do. It's, let's talk about it, where do you want to grow, and then gave you an action plan. And then came and saw you 3 weeks later. And, like, you practiced it. Like, how would that come? Like, would you feel like you're being over-monitored? Or do you feel like it would be truly helpful?
that's what we implement in our own classrooms. I mean, it's all about building relationships with students and monitoring their progress and giving them feedback for growth. And that's what teaching is all about. And so as an administrator, the job is teaching your staff to grow in these ways. And so relationship is huge when,
Okay.
yeah, building a relationship and establishing some trust and also being in there often, knowing
Yeah.
what's going on is huge.
So, yes, would be good with it,
Mhm.
but would have to have the culture that allows it.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you would have to establish the trust first. You're not going to walk in first time in my classroom and be like, this is what you need to work on.
Right.
You know, like there needs
Right.
to be like, hey, by the way, this happens a lot. Like I'm coming in your room, I'm just observing what I'm looking at. And yeah, maybe on like the second or third time you're there, like, hey, what is something you want to work on?
Okay.
And that conversation's open. I
The
think,
trust has to be.
yeah.
Okay.
It's like a
Yeah.
coach with kids and
It's
teachers
exactly
with kids.
like a
Like you
coach.
can't
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, they know when
Come
you're,
at 'em.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay,
you gotta make more deposits before you.
Yes.
right.
Especially people that have really are taking pride in. I mean, I think most teachers really take pride in their craft, and
They want to get
it's
better.
like, yes, I think they do, and they're trying really hard, and so you need to know where that criticism's coming from and how it's sold.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so the other two walkthrough forms are just ones that I found. One is very, so the one that looks like this is very basic. I kind of gives you like the dimensions. Again, it's t-test based. T-test is just how they're graded, how they grade us. And it's, you know, satisfactory, needs to be addressed. I mean, what are your teachers, what are your thoughts on this little guy? I mean, even, you know, Tiver, just what are your thoughts on it in regards to, do you feel like a teacher that is proficient in working with GT kids, do you feel like they're getting monitored and rated how they should? I mean, there's not much to it, but it is,
As a parent, if I were to go into a teacher's classroom for 45 minutes, I would want to see, are the kids do they seem to want to be there? Are they engaged? Is learning happening?
Okay.
Is learning happening? Are the kids engaged? 'Cause just because a kid's GT doesn't mean they're gonna be doing their best all the time.
So you would
Like those might also be a little checked out if it's boring, they already know it. How do we know they're still actively engaged? And
So you would go from all, or like include something with a classroom culture vibe to it. Okay.
So on the other
Mhm. Yeah.
paperwork,
This one, yeah. The
the
Google form.
original one?
Mhm.
No, the original
Oh,
one
the
that we
original,
looked
gotcha,
at?
yeah.
That would give you, as a teacher, a guideline for kind of what is being looked for,
Mm-hmm.
and it's laid out. This walkthrough form right here is, there's not check marks. So, yes, a seasoned teacher would be, okay, I kind of know what they're looking for, but as a first year teacher, this would scare the bejeebies out of me, because I wouldn't know what I have to check off. I go to other teachers to say, hey, what are they looking for? And every veteran teacher would have, oh, you need to do this, you need to do
Yeah.
this, you need to check
Okay.
this off. So I like this form as as an admin filling it out, because they have to write and specify, but I don't like it from the teacher point of view of this is what somebody's doing. Because right here, I can know that I'm supposed to persist with the lesson until there's evidence that some of the students, like if I'm doing the lesson and only some of them, I'm gonna fall here.
Got it, okay.
But if I persist until I get all of them, I'm gonna fall here. This doesn't give any
Too
of that
broad.
guideline.
Yeah.
It
So,
doesn't give any guideline to the beginning teacher.
Yeah.
Imagine your first walkthrough and then come in and it's like, what are you looking for? And
Yeah.
maybe that admin is, they want the objective on the board and their objective is do math. You know?
Right, okay, okay.
Also, I'm gonna piggyback off of that because I've done walkthroughs before. The district implemented them for department chairs for 2 years in a row, last year and the year before.
Okay.
And I will say, if I have a form that I'm gonna have to like completely fill out in writing, it's impossible to do that in 45 minutes.
Okay.
I need a checklist as the person doing the walkthrough to check off and say, yes, I saw this, and it was, and give a rating immediately, and then go back and fill that in later with any kind of like additional information
Okay.
that I need to put in, because in the moment, it's too much to just write down a whole paragraph for every domain.
Right, okay, okay. So more of a quicker type situation where it's a this, but I can go back and
Yeah.
write some stuff later. Okay.
And as Colleen was saying, like that gives the administrator, not me, but that gives the observer clarity, and that gives the teacher clarity as well.
Okay, so okay,
It's not up for interpretation.
It's not up for interpretation,
Yeah.
right?
provide that, would we want to provide the teacher with this walkthrough form beforehand and be like, hey, this is what I'm looking for, by the way?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes, 100%, yeah.
Whatever you're.
Because even if you have a campus with more than one admin, one
Mhm.
admin's looking for
Mhm.
this,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and one admin is looking for this.
And it's hard to achieve a goal if you don't know what the goal is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
so.
do you have an easy grader or a hard grader, or you have someone looking for a specific task that you never do because you heard they were looking for something else.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Mhm.
So specific, like specificity that way, scale, okay? Something that, kind of circling back to the, in regards to looking at something over time. How often do you think, if you could say, hey, I'm, because again, we all want to grow in our craft, how often would you say is a good number of times for a principal to, or an admin, instructional coach, teacher, leader, however, how many times would you want them to truly be able to help you and develop? Like,
Admin be realistic at least once in 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, but like if we're including like ICs or like teacher leaders, probably every like 3-ish weeks or something
Okay.
like that.
And I'm thinking like if I'm trying to get feedback, right? Like if a form is actually supposed to be giving me feedback and so it's just like, we did it. I would almost want it at least every like grading period or hopefully like every 3 weeks. So again, you could see that not only am I like persisting enough to work on it, but then like maybe you're able to see like evidence of that growing in me or maybe not growing in me, so like I can continue to tackle the problem. If it's like after 1 to 6 weeks, it's almost like,
It's done, I can't, yeah, okay.
Can go back to it.
and especially like depending on like a unit you're working in, or I know like every different content area is different, but it might be like that what I was working on doesn't even apply to what I'm doing the next 6 weeks anyway.
Seeing it as like
So-
a living, because for me, at least right now, what we have for our walkthrough documents, it doesn't seem like a living document to me.
It's not.
It's just
No.
a sign it, we're done, check.
One and done.
Like, for me, I want this to be a living, breathing document to where it's constantly updated by someone and it's, yeah, it's a Google sheet and it's constantly like they're writing on it and then I can go in and write on it and comment and it can be conversation pieces.
And hopefully,
That's what
like-
I was gonna say, it's a documented conversation.
And
Okay,
again, if
yeah.
it's has some sort of continuum, like again, especially at the end of the year, you know, when they ask like evidence of like attaining all this stuff, like, well, let's look, like I've moved from this category to this category, and now I'm now at this category, which is what I really wanted to be at the end of the year, and being able to see my progress and growth from not only my perspective, but maybe an admin's perspective too, of saying, I have also seen you grow from here, 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 instead of me trying to like scramble for evidence that I have.
That I've done this.
So go back to what you
Yeah.
were talking about, mimicking it to our classroom where we pre-test and post-test. Where we pre-test and post-test, you almost could come in, what you're talking about, a document where you have the original one, and they grade you on the original one, and your high score stays, and then you can work on your other ones and have them come back and say, hey, I got a 3 on that, I'm gonna try for the 4, can you come back?
Can you come back to it? Yeah.
And that's also able then to like point out, this is something I want to work on. And again, if somebody is coming in to check in regularly with you, like y'all can get together and be like, all right, this is where we're going to pinpoint for your growth, and let's track it and see how well we can be by next time.
I mean, if we're being honest, the T-test situation is like, I barely remember how to access it every year.
Right.
When I go to it, and I have to take a moment to remember,
Yep.
this document should be a document that we are constantly on. Like,
Right.
maybe it's one of the tabs, one of the 55 tabs that's already open on our screen all
Right.
the time,
Yeah.
because it's something that we reference,
It's
and we
something that-
remember how to use it.
Yeah,
So,
hey, this is what I'm working on.
yeah.
And then we'll pull from it. So, okay.
I
So,
think there also should be a lot of positives on that sheet.
okay. So
The
explain what you
living,
said.
breathing document, like, there needs to be
100%.
positives so that you know, I need to keep doing those things. They
Okay.
noticed something I didn't even realize I was doing, I need to make sure that I'm consciously implementing that,
Right.
because
That
that was a
goes with
good
the
strategy.
culture. Like,
Absolutely.
Yes, and then
someone's
the,
getting teared down, like
the-
torn down, they're not gonna hear it.
So kind of have like positives, but then opportunities. Hey, this is what we're doing, and it just kind of be a back and forth. Okay.
and depends on how long the walkthrough is. If they're in there for 5 minutes and I'm like, you should do this, this, and this, and it's like, oh, I did, you left and didn't see it, or
Right.
you were over there talking to that kid when I did it.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
And I think too, maybe
So they
even,
need to, it's gonna need to be who it comes from and how it's.
and I would say on top of that, if you do have several things that need to be addressed when like having a meeting to be able to discuss that, but also like if I'm thinking of a teacher who maybe does have several things to work on, like you're not going to get them to work on those things if you bombard them all at once.
Right.
So like having a part of the form where it's like, all right, these are the things that I maybe like rated you not so well on. Let's choose 1 or 2 of them to maybe
Makes sense.
really highlight. That way we can work on those and tackle them as they come.
Choose your
Immediate
biggest
needs,
your
yeah,
biggest
all
need,
assessed, yes.
right? Like if classroom management is not, well, nobody's learning anything, so
Right.
classroom management has to be addressed
first, yeah.
first. And then we can go
Sorry.
to, oh, okay, well now let's talk about differentiation, and now let's
Right.
talk about this. Okay, okay, perfect. We can totally turn it off now. So wait, you click your, oh, it's fine. She'll
You
see
sure?
what the last button. It's
Okay.
fine.